Topic here is atomic energy. For some reason, YouTube flagged my other one. It's probably because I used a National Geographic video. So here we go. If that other one is still available, feel free to take a look at that one. If not, you're stuck with this one. So the group with atomic energy was given the task of looking at the evolution of atomic energy. For the most part, we know at the end of World War II, we have a nuclear bomb that is dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But we also learn that there are two, major uses by any society for nuclear energy. So the first could be the use of a nuclear bomb that can destroy an entire city, or we could create a situation where we use that same energy to power a city to give it light. There we go. There goes the light right there. So one student was asked to come up with a pretty basic model to give you an idea of how a nuclear reactor creates energy. And a couple things that I want to focus on for the test purpose here. These turbines that are spinning is producing energy. And as a result of the spinning here, that energy winds up being funneled to a city via wires. So a couple of items we want to take note of here. Here we see the control rods, and the control rods get very hot. As they get hot and they are radioactive, and they leave a radioactive byproduct waste behind. But as these things heat up, you see here we have the water in this particular area, and the goal of the water is to cool the rods down. So if these rods are not being cooled, we have the risk of pressure building up. We have the risk of explosion. So the reason why I have to bring that up is this is more of a history look at atomic energy. And one of the things you can take note on here is that the rods, this issue right here, is what is going to lead to some nuclear disasters. So when I bring up the rods, let's give you an idea of what those rods look like. And as I said, these rods, once used, they are radioactive. We have to do something with them. And currently, the solution is to store these things underground. Nevada has been key for this. So you probably don't want to do too much digging in Nevada if for some reason you're over there. That'll be a question, test question I'll probably ask you is like, what cools the rod? How do the rods cool? And why do I ask that? Because some of the nuclear disasters stem from primarily over those rods, and the water not being able to cool down, in that area. So in this particular map here, we see a map of some of the areas throughout the United States that have a nuclear reactor. It definitely seems to be a lot. If I was going to nuke the United States, because this is during the Cold War, I'd probably drop my nuke right there. 1977 blackout, result of a issue with regard to energy loss, leads to a lot of rioting in 1977. In 2003, there was a software issue that caused the blackout, and you can see this portion of the United States go dark. Here we see an exodus, people trying to get out. New York during that particular moment. This image here is an image of Chernobyl. And Chernobyl is under the control of the Soviet Union, so you'll have to, go back to the presentations to get an idea of, which one, 3 Mile Island in Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island not happening, or 3 Mile Island, the one happening in the United States, and then Chernobyl. Chernobyl, close to this town of Pripyat, this entire area was evacuated. So we see here that it's founded in 1970, and this was in the 80s, the site of a nuclear meltdown. That's the image from that one, where the reactor melted down and the radioactive debris went out into the atmosphere. And this is the reason why YouTube flagged the other video. It's this documentary here. The documentary is about this radioactive cat and all of the radioactive wildlife that lives in Pripyat because all of the humans have gone. They're no longer around. Students in this group were also asked to look at nuclear missile silos. So if we remember, during the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union made hundreds of nuclear bombs. Some of these nuclear bombs were stored in missile silos that were underground. So here we see the missile underground. Well, at some point, developers started to buy these nuclear missile silos and convert them into homes, and that is exactly what you are seeing here. Haven't really followed this story, so feel free to do a search for nuclear missile silo homes for sale. 3 Mile Island, we're looking at this image here. What I want you to recognize is the cooling tower right here. So if you ever see these things, chances are you're right next to a nuclear power plant. So in this one, the ability to cool down is not happening. Those rods are starting to heat up, and they have to evacuate 3 Mile Island. So 3 Mile Island is in Pennsylvania, and at this point in the 70s, the government is starting to approve contracts to develop nuclear power plants. However, as a result of 3 Mile Island, the federal government looks back and thinks maybe it's not such a good idea because if these things ever have a malfunction, that could be problematic for people as well as the environment. So the whole push to build nuclear power plants in the 70s, going into the 80s, starts to go on a decline, and that is the significance of 3 Mile Island. So the atomic energy summary pretty much looks like that. You want to focus on the role of water, the cooling down of the rods, where do the rods go, and then the debate that is sparked by 3 Mile Island.